questions. Thank you.
So before we open it up to general discussion, I note in our Police Services Board budget that we are continuing to support our association, which is a very good thing. Our association is greatly suffering, I'm sure, because of COVID and because of the fact that some of the boards funded by their municipalities are finding it tough times. So I'm grateful for that. Mark, you have a question with regard to professional development. Perhaps you could articulate it for all of us to hear.
To Mark, through the chair, if I may. Mark, I'm just questioning the reduction of the $7,000, and I understand the reasoning behind it. 100%, I totally understand that. I'm just thinking in the foresight of looking forward in 2021, and hopefully COVID-19 will be behind us. I mean, I know it doesn't look promising as of today, obviously with the numbers increasing once again, but being positive and thinking ahead in 2021, in the event that the OAPSB is not going to be virtual, and there is going to be a conference, maybe later in the year of 2021, would the board be penalized for not having that money allocation if we were to make a decision of attending as a board, like we have in the past? That's just a concern of mine, and going forward, if there's going to be, again, in the event that that COVID-19 is lifted and there is not going to be the social distancing and everything else that goes along with it, that there would be an actual conference that we could attend. Would we be compromised?
Through the chair to the members. So we have done a fair bit of thinking on this across the board. As I mentioned, it's not just the Police Services Board budget where we have done a one-time reduction in professional development. That's gone across all of our departments as well, in anticipation that we're not going to be out of the woods sufficiently with respect to the pandemic to be engaged in that kind of social gathering that often exceeds, hundreds of people in the same room. While we have recently received good news regarding a vaccine, that's still months away in terms of it being available to beyond those who need it the most and the vulnerable sectors of society. So on balance, we believe that the last thing that's going to be coming back into a state of post-pandemic normal is events that would garner large crowds gathering together. What I would suggest is that we would make it known to the OAPSB, and I doubt that we would be the only ones that are taking this type of measure, that we have reduced the budget in anticipation of a virtual conference in 2021, and hope that even if they're in the position to host a live conference, that they have a virtual option so that people can choose to attend either virtually or in person if that situation were to evolve where we would be able to do that. So in that respect, we would hope that we wouldn't be disadvantaged from being able to participate in a virtual format, even if there were that optimistic outlook of people being able to gather in those numbers as early as 2021.
2 points, Mark. Is that a satisfactory answer to what you? Well, I think that's what we expected to hear.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted it to be brought to the meeting.
The one point that I would make is I think under new business in our December meeting, we should take up the issue of sending a formal letter to our association stating how our budget has arrived at and that we would probably not be standing alone in Ontario with having a difficult time to attend in person should that come to reality. I don't think we need to cover that today, but we can certainly look at that. I think if Ellen is listening in right now, maybe we should make a note that we put that in our business agenda for our December meeting. Are there any other questions? Deputy Mayor Becchetti, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, I'm not sure, maybe Marg or Glenn. We, as a council, I know it's always come to us regarding speeding and enforcement, and we looked at and talked about possibility of a contract enhancement, hiring a dedicated officer for simply doing that type of enforcement. Is that something that we need to discuss now, or is it in there buried somewhere, or do we need to look at it and say, you know what, it's going to be another extra 120,000 a year, whatever that cost is? And are we able to do that as a police service board, is put something like that in place?
I would remind the deputy mayor that this very point was brought up when we first received the draft budget from the Ontario Provincial Police for their services. And at that time, it was thought that that would be deferred back into administration to see if there was really truly an appetite for the enhancement. My understanding through discussion was that there was not a general appetite for increasing, but is a significant budget anyway. So, and if I am incorrect, maybe Margaret, you might speak to that, or maybe our CFO could speak to that, but I believe that that really never had any legs.
Actually, yes, and through the chair, actually, Ellen, if you could just stop sharing the screen for a moment so that we can see members. Thank you. Through the chair on that point, I can safely say that there is no additional enhancement proposed in the 2021 budget. As the chair correctly pointed out, when that was broached at the board, there was some discussion about that being driven really by a direction of council as opposed to the board. We feel that through working closely with the with the staff sergeant and his team, that we've been able to address a number of the traffic concerns in a very timely manner and get back to citizens directly, including Staff Sergeant Smith reaching out directly with their number of calls for service in other areas decreasing. I think and I'll turn this over so that they can speak for themselves, but it's been our experience that they've been able to turn their resources towards some of these concerns that we've brought to their attention, specifically on traffic related matters. So at this point, and given that we're maybe staring down another year of similar pandemic induced environment, that we might be okay going into 21 in status quo mode. But perhaps with your permission, Mr. Chair, turn it over to either the inspector or the staff sergeant to comment on that.
Before we do that, I would like to ask the deputy mayor if that's a satisfactory answer for him for at this point.
Oh, I think, yeah, I'm unmuted. I understand the position, but I know there's a need out there. And again, I'll give you my experience from traveling to Alberta. When I was in Calgary, nobody travels more than 2 kilometers over the speed limit. They have photo radar. Yeah. That's another thing that I really believe that would help solve a lot of the speeding, where you can move these mobile units, but they're very expensive. They're cost prohibitive. For example, they may cost, I don't know, $200,000 to bring in 5,000 in revenue. So that's something maybe I could speak with the mayor. Is that something regionally as a warden in the county of Essex, would they look at those OPPs or other jurisdiction? Would they be interested in purchasing a unit and then we share the service where we randomly put it? Again, it's got to be placed in discrete places. So those are all ideas that, sure, I may be off base. I'm not a police officer or whatever, but in terms of, if you don't have that, if maybe let's get the body to do it, or, I'm just thinking that speeding is an issue, and no matter how we do it, it's still an issue. So the answer is it's still not good enough, what's out there. But again, I rely on the expertise on how we can, tackle that issue.
I'm of the opinion that photo radar would need to be enacted at a provincial level, and there would be signage requirements in each municipality to warn people there was photo radar, et cetera. But that's something that can be discussed later. But I noticed that the mayor had
Just very, very quickly, I don't want to, this is something that we can set aside, but I just want to just let you know that photo radar, I mean, now provincially, it's in community safety zone and schools in those areas. Very expensive, yes. All I'm going to say is that AMO through LAS, right now we're looking at working where municipalities could lease these units, and instead of purchasing them because of the high cost. And so I would say just park it for now, and until more information is coming through, but the board has given the LAS the look to work with a private corporation in having centrally purchase these units, and then they could be then sent to different municipalities. So I'll leave it at that. So
yeah, I would
for now.
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't offer an opportunity for Inspector Miller to add to this discussion if he feels that there's anything that the OPP could bring into this discussion.
Well, thanks very much, Mr. Chair and Deputy, kind of for raising this particular question. I know that at each of our police service boards, we do address the various traffic enforcement strategies that we put into place in the town of Tecumseh. Traffic enforcement continues to remain one of our top priorities throughout the entire county, and certainly within the town of Tecumseh for sure. The advent of technology is certainly always a valued asset for the police, that's for sure. You continue to see the various initiatives that we do undertake within the town, and we also carefully analyze the data, and we balance out the realistic expectations, I think, of the community as well, and what is actual that's taking place as opposed to perception. So it's probably part of a broader discussion for sure. We lay the charges appropriately when we have that evidence and take them to court. The court does not want us to be laying a charge at 2 kilometers over the speed limit. The courts don't want that. The courts are already jammed up. So we have to then leverage our education piece and our media piece as well as helping to keep our roadway safety. But we're pleased to certainly discuss this later as to different things that you may be interested in purchasing in order to just to gain a greater adherence and compliance to our speed laws within the town.
Thank you. Ellen, I know you're listening in. I think we should add this also for discussion in our December meeting. I don't like to blow it up our December meeting with, but speeding and traffic in the town of Tecumseh has been a subject that we have bandied around a lot. And I think now we see that Windsor is taking a kick at the can of lowering the general speed limit on all their roads. And I am sure that the Ontario Provincial Police has probably knowledge of the success or lack of success of that kind of strategy. So let's defer that until our December meeting, and we can talk about traffic, speeding in general, and see if there is maybe some kind of something we can launch in the new year that will give. I think so for our citizens, we know this is one of their priorities. They've expressed that in their last satisfaction survey. So maybe this might be very good for the Police Service Board, the OPP contract policing, and the council to know that we have some kind of a plan pulled together that's addressing this in a real fashion. Are there any other questions? Yes, Paul, please unmute yourself, Paul, please.
Sure. Through you to the CAO, Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification on the briefing note. It's my first so-called kick at the cat on a Section 10 budget. When the contract for the 6-year contract is now ended, so the 2021, this budget is based on a billing projection. Is that what they're called now? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's changed in that sense. So it's now called the billing projections.
Driven by a contract that the OPP has signed with their association. That's the big driver is the salary.
Oh, no, I really, yeah. No, I just was curious because we're now, that's just being called, just getting my head around it. So thank you.
Yes,
The other point is, in the current situation for this, the court security and prisoner transportation, are we potentially sitting on a bit of a time bomb here, or is there something here that could come back out to bite us in this budget, or?
Well,
I think the mayor would like to speak to that.
If
This
I
is
may,
near and dear to his heart.
this is something that it goes back a few years through you, Mr. Chair, to Paul, that AMO had negotiated with the municipal or the provincial municipal fiscal review, and 125 million upload was negotiated, and it was prorated over a 5-year period. In 2018, that came to the full load upload. Though I don't know if it was rumors or I mean, they're looking at this right now moving forward, but is it a powder keg? You better believe it is, because if they go the other way, the association, 444 municipalities, they're gonna explode on this one for sure. But nobody really knows in terms of what they meant by doing an evaluation on it and so forth. But we don't want them to backslide. It was an agreement that was reached and fulfilled, and I'll leave it at that. We don't know definitely in terms of where the province really wants to go on this one, because I think the Solicitor General and they certainly have a lot on their plate right now to deal with in that regard. So I don't know what discussions they're having amongst the province themselves, but I can tell you that AMO is keeping their finger on the pulse on this one to make sure that we don't backslide on that.
Thank you.
And they would fight that fight. AMO would fight that fight for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This would be this is bigger than us.
Yeah.
It's bigger than us. Absolutely.
But I think for our CFO and our CAO, they have to make a budget on what they know, not what they speculate on. So, are there any other questions?
More of a comment. I waited till everyone, unless they're there, but I guess it's more of a, I'll say a pet peeve of mine is in regards to when in the budget we referred to 19 and 20, the reconciliation and a $34,000 cost to the municipality in that. I, for one, I think when things change from the integrated model policing, that changed the whole thing, the concept. So to go back and I look at, when we talk, should we go to enhancements? Should we do this and do that? And we look at, it didn't reflect in 19, but it should reflect in the 2020 reconciliation is the misdials and those calls, not only for us, but across the province. And those are fee for calls and so forth. So there's been a tremendous amount of reduction. And I know there was talk that there's no, we're not going to benefit from that in terms of a cash incentive. I heard that, but I've got a difficult time, because looking at the past and with the integrated model, losing officers, and sometimes we're a little short staffed and they're shifted here and there and so forth. In particular, when we still pay a certain base amount, and it's,
The policing.
60% base and a 40% fee for call and so forth. And within that model, it's kind of murky. And, I'm still waiting to see the audit, from the provincial audit that's supposed to be independent audits, and to see exactly where all of that. So I'm waiting to see, where the savings or the dollars or whatever they're there. But for us to turn around and say, now all of a sudden we're going to add another 150,000 or even 300,000 to dedicate 2 officers for traffic. I've got a hard time. I got a hard time, putting that into perspective. But I must say, Staff Sergeant Smith, you've done a great job in terms of, moving those assets and dealing with a lot of it. I think some of the complaints are not as high as they were. Are they still there? Yeah, you've got people that'll always complain no matter what. But we still have an issue, obviously, in that regards. But I think the deployment of officers on, you can't, I get it. You can't have 14 cruisers all over town, pointing a radar gun in the traffic. That's not, that wouldn't be cost effective either, no doubt. But for me, I still have a difficult time. And anytime I have an opportunity to talk to the folks in Aurelia, I tell them, transparency, transparency, transparency. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm not throwing this to you, Inspector, or certainly to Staff Sergeant Smith, that I know you have to deal with the folks in Aurelia and so forth. But that frustration that I feel is I'm not the only mayor that feels that across the province.
That's the point.
And so that's the difficult piece that I have. And yes, we can add more officers. If we wanted to 35,000 population and so forth, I'd say, yeah, you got to deal with it. You can, for policing purposes, but not just for traffic control, but everything in perspective. But we haven't grown that much. Population is still pretty much the same. And so when you look at the integrated model with the other communities, I'm only hoping that I'm not subsidizing the other communities. That's my biggest piece, because it's important, because I feel compelled that we have a personal contract, the town to come see the 24,000 residents with the Ontario Provincial Police, to police our community and all aspects of it. And I include traffic and crime and this and that. I understand the cost share for the inspector and staff sergeants and the specialized services that we have. And we cost share in that, no argument there. That's always been there. But it's how the billing model now is reflected. And when we looked at cost savings here and there, we're not seeing it the way we should be. That's my vent for this meeting in particular. But I'd be remiss if I didn't do it, because I wanted, but it's a frustration that many of the mayors across the province of Ontario that are policed by OPP now adopting this type of integrated model are having a difficult time.
Mr. Mayor, not to put words in your mouth, but I think for the benefit of those who may be listening in right now, we should say that our association discusses this at length, and you are speaking out of a knowledge base and also very quietly, but there are mayors who are furious over this, and I think probably our response is based on the fact that we are an existing OPP contract in decades. And we have a good relationship with the Ontario Provincial Police. We have long-standing, good relationships. So I think what we're saying is this is not a divorce thing. This is just something that's, it's that little pebble in the boot that bothers you, and it's a nagging pain. And I know that since other municipalities are expressing the same thing across the province of Ontario, especially in the far north, I think this is something that really is eventually going to have to, in some meaningful way, step up and say, here's what's going on. Here's what we think we need to do.
Yeah, and not to belay this thing, I must give credit where credit's due to the commissioner. I mean, he has reached out to even our association, to have this dialogue, and in particular on the whole gambit of things, but that relationship. So I give him full marks that he's reaching out for that, and we're gonna have that conversation. And at Roma, actually, there's going to be a panel. I've been asked to be on it, representing AMO and others, and there's a superintendent from the OPP will be on there as well, and other folks. There's about 4 or 5 of us that are there, and a lot of it is on, you know, the future and some of the issues that are still nagging. But to use your analogy, yeah, I feel that little pebble in my shoe, and it's, you know, I can still walk, but it's got a little pain there.
Yeah. Are there any other questions on the budget? We're sort of sliding a little bit into other areas, but seeing none, I think it's appropriate that I reread the motion, which has been moved and seconded, so that we know exactly what we're voting on here. So the motion reads that the proposed 2021 budget for policing of $3,416,874, reflecting a 1.12% increase, and for the Police Services Board of $34,856, reflecting an 18.5% decrease, be approved by the Police Services Board and be recommended for consideration and approval by the Town Council. So, all in favor? Passed. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item I, communications. There are no communications, as this is a special meeting, and that is inclusive of item J. Under old business, the disposition of unclaimed funds from the Ontario Provincial Police Detachment. We have a motion that the unclaimed funds for the Town of Tecumseh Detachment in the amount of $1,098 be dispersed to. So this is kind of an open-ended motion. And I think what we should do is, I know we want that money spent properly. I think we should maybe move the motion and then through discussion, plug in the two. And I'm looking for Margaret to see if that's legal.
Well, I think you should probably have something in the blank before the motion is moved.
All right, then why don't we discuss that? I think we all in this board understand that we would like to see that money go to the youth in Tecumseh. And because budgets have been hurt a little bit, I'm suspecting that the mayor would like to put in maybe a little thing for the VIP program. I think this would help fund them, but I'll let, does anyone want to speak on this, where they would like the money to go? Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you'd.
Oh, if I may, yeah, no question, you know, for the youth, I thought, I forget what the exact amount is, but, you know, like, at the end of the day, we need to, you know, put it in the bank, but, you know, 50%, I'd like to put it towards, you know, the cop camp, and then the other 50% through the VIP program. I think those are the values and peers. I mean, especially for, I believe, Deputy Mayor, I think it's a grade 6, right? And you know, those have been always great, successful programs, and that's where you know, I mean, it's just a suggestion to me, but those are two key points. And then the cop camp piece, it helps, you know, the underprivileged out there, those that kind of fall through the cracks, don't have an opportunity. And the OPP, they're, you know, they're volunteers, the officers that man that do a fantastic job. And
That's personal enrichment. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for them to, you know, to get a little bit of a little extra.
And your worship, as you know, the budgets being what they are, the VIP program takes a little bit of a kick, and the cop camp is mostly sponsored by the big golf tournament, and that is probably in jeopardy. By maybe a little bit of a nod of the heads, would everyone be in agreement? We split those resources. It's $1,098. Go ahead,
actually,
Margaret.
Mr. Chair, actually, we'll fill in the blank with those two, and then assuming that the mayor is prepared to move that, we need a seconder, then you can discuss.
All right. So then,
I'll move that.
Yeah, so then not being fine on the arithmetic, I would say that it would read that the unclaimed funds for the Tecumseh OPP detachment in the amount of $1,098 be dispersed 50% to the Tecumseh VIP program and 50% to the cop camp. And it was been moved by the mayor and seconded by Mark Gomes. Any other discussion on that at all? Deputy Mayor Buchetti, please.
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible, Mark, to frame the motion so that due to COVID, cop camps, if those get canceled, it doesn't materialize, that it automatically goes to the VIP program? So you kind of open-end it that way, and if it doesn't, because looking at the grade schools, I think the Catholic Board has 3, public and French, I'm guessing 10. And so in terms of a VIP program, I can tell you that it's been years since the class got any t-shirts. They used to give out VIP t-shirts. I haven't seen them in the last 5-6 years. So if each school, the VIP says, you know what, we'll cover the cost of an $8 t-shirt with the logo and like they used to do, that $1,800 would easily go be consumed on the schools just with VIP. So I don't know if you want to do it open-ended so that if the cop camp doesn't take place next year, that it could be rolled into the VIP, whatever they want to do. If they want to do birthday, whatever, cakes or muffins, whatever the VIP officer thinks would like to participate.
Oh, as this is the mayor's motion, would you be agreeable to that, Your Worship?
Well, I'd have to, certainly I don't know the OPP, what happened last year, but obviously the Cup Camp was it postponed last year, right? Yeah, and I have no issue with that. I mean, put it in the hands of the community police officer in terms of,
Disposition.
That's the individual that really puts the VIP program together. And I certainly don't have any issues with that. I mean, I want to see the money go to youth, and both of them are great programs.
So there would be an amendment to this motion that in light of if the cop camp can't be run because of COVID, that 100% of the funds would go to the VIP program for use by our police, our
Community police.
Community police officer as they see fit. Is that as you understand, you'd like to see the motion?
Yep. Yeah, that's a friendly amendment. I'm okay with that.
All right, we had, I don't believe any seconder to this motion, but now
Yeah,
Mark,
yeah.
Mark did it.
Mark.
Mark, I'm sorry, I missed you. Okay, any other comments on the motion? All in favor? Passed. Thank you so much. New business, the only new business under item M is our next meeting will be on Thursday, December the 10th. And at that time, I think we can start pulling together some thoughts on traffic, on speed limits, speeding, etc. Inspector Miller and Staff Sergeant Smith, I'm kind of giving you almost a month to think, put those thoughts together for us as well, because I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions for you. Your Worship.
Just a question through you to our to Staff Sergeant Smith or certainly the inspector. You still have that specialized traffic unit?
Traffic management, traffic TMU.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so for adjournment, I'm looking for a motion that there be no further business. The Thursday, November 12th, 2020 meeting of the Police Services Board be adjourned. I'm looking for a mover. Paul, seconder, Mayor McNamara, all in favor? We are done. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just before I forget too, just to Inspector Miller, if you could extend our congratulations and to one of your outstanding constables. I think his name is Maximus, who your canine. I read in one of the local papers, especially his 100th apprehension, and I can tell you, I think Chris, our chair, and I don't know if Joe, you were on the board at the time when they introduced Maximus to us here in our chamber, and I can tell you, he is an amazing an amazing police dog, and it just feels like it was yesterday. And you've used him considerably. But please extend to his handler as well as to Maximus. Congratulations on the fine work. And I don't know if you have a medal for K9s, but I think with 100 apprehensions in that, he's probably your top cop. So please extend our heartfelt congrats to them.
And Mayor McNamara, if you remember, we saw Maximus in field trials. And I mean, that's like about 120-pound bullet going about Mach 2. And if that dog ever hits you, because he's going to take you down, you're not going to resist that dog.
I could see the way he was looking at us. That it was breakfast, dinner, and
all muscle and jaws this big. Yeah. Well, we're overstaying our welcome. I think we'll call it an evening. Thank you.
Night.
Right.
Right.